Hi, I'm John McNeil, and this is the Invest Strong Network. Welcome. One of the goals I think of achieving financial success and acquiring any amount of wealth is the goal of being philanthropic in your endeavors. Now, me personally, I've always had a huge admiration for the big baller philanthropist, persons like Rockefeller and Carnegie, here in Houston, George Herman, who gifted us Herman Hospital, the late Dan Duncan, and even the late Bob McNair, owner of the Houston Texas football team, and also huge local philanthropist. Now, I don't have their kind of money, right? So I can't do that. Not so fast. I wanted to make my viewers aware of a project that I launched back in the early 2000s, which kind of put me in the big baller range. Yes! All right, so here in Texas, the Texas Comptroller has an enormous database of unclaimed property. Now, most of that unclaimed property is in the name of individuals and corporations. However, a fairly significant amount of it is also in the name of nonprofit organizations, community organizations, volunteer fire departments, school districts, hospital districts, private clinics in rural areas, and other organizations that basically are designed to benefit the greater good, right? So, in around 2004, what I would do is on a daily basis, I would go through the comptroller's database, online database, and if I found unclaimed funds in the name of a nonprofit, community organization, or whatnot, I would package it up, print it out, package it up, uh, send it to their executive director or financial director, giving them instructions on how they should recover it. Now, I would keep detailed records of the items that were sent out, and then I would periodically do a backup scan to see how much of it had cleared, right? So the project actually started off kind of slow, right? So I would have to buy these stamps, and every day I would go and print out something and slap a stamp on the envelope, drop it in a mailbox as I'm headed off to work, and that's the way it worked. Now I began to get recoveries, right? And so I was like, wow, this is really pretty cool, right? And so I decided to expand the project and start scanning for school districts, hospital districts, rural clinics, volunteer fire departments, things like that. Now, some of these organizations had already had unclaimed recovery programs, right? But I found out that I could actually add value to their efforts, especially in the case of the school districts, by doing unusual name spellings, also abbreviations, and scanning for the actual school campuses and also school connected organizations like the FFA or ROTC programs and things like that, right? And then I would further expand the project by, instead of sending it through US Post, right, actually getting the email address of the superintendent and or the financial director of the school district or hospital system, and sending the entire package to them electronically with instructions on how to recover it all, right? Now, by the middle 2000s, say 2007, 2008, all of a sudden recoveries became huge, right? In fact, from basically 2007 until about 2013, I was recovering or assisted in recovering about $15 to $20,000 a week in unclaimed properties, right? And so the more success I had doing this, the more I wanted to do it, right? And so I then again expanded the project to search for museums in the state of Texas, and then also I would discover unclaimed funds for organizations that are outside of the state of Texas, but for some reason had funds in the Texas database, right? So all of a sudden, I'm connecting with museum directors in Illinois, in Nevada, in California, in New York, Florida, for a lot in Louisiana. A lot of unclaimed property for Louisiana nonprofits in the Texas database, right? Connecting with all of them, sending them the notices and claiming instructions. And the recoveries just again mushroomed, right? And so by the 2010s, uh, things were just great. I mean, each month, recoveries would be sometimes in the hundreds of thousands of dollar area, right? Many of the community organizations, United Way organizations, nonprofits, school systems, hospital systems, rural clinics, volunteer fire departments, they would send me thank you letters either through the post or via email, and I would print them out, and I have a nice little stack of them here. And whenever I'm feeling low or whatever, I would go back, read those. Really, really charming. I mean, just super duper charming, and it just really motivates me to do more, right? And also as for an intellectual experience, Project Good Recovery, as I called it, really educated me on the size and breadth of the state of Texas. Because for the unclaimed fire departments and especially the public school systems, I did a scan for every one of them and their campuses in the state of Texas. And let me tell you, that was thousands of campuses, thousands of addresses. And I learned this state, almost every square inch of this state, I learned, right? And cities and townships and villages that I would have never known of otherwise, I learned about them, right? And I would contact their superintendents and their financial directors and whatnot. It really turned out to be a fantastic project, and it went on until about 2017, late summer. Now the comptroller began to do some stuff with their excuse me, with the online database that made it rather difficult to forward information and also made it real challenging to do the follow-up scans, right? Because previously the way they had it set up, you could tap in a name or a portion of a name, and it would pull out all the various spelling deviations and things like that. Well, they then replaced that system with this system where you have to tap in an exact spelling in order to pull up a particular item. Or you'd have to have a property number, which they didn't list in the online database at that time, right? So that made Project Good Recovery far more cumbersome and time consuming, right? So in August of 2017, I sent out the last portion of unclaimed funds electronically to various entities that I had been running this project for the previous 13 years, right? Now, at the end of the day, and at that time, which is when I did my final rescan of all the things that had recovered up to that point, I had been able to successfully recover 27,401 items total for a grand total of 8,528,745. Now, this is as of August 2017, and I have not done a deep follow-up scan since then, right? So it is entirely possible that in the last 5 years, much more of this stuff has been recovered, right? Because there's a pretty significant lag time between the time you actually file for recovery and then the state actually releases the money, right? So perhaps at some point when I have more free time, I'll go back and I'll do a rescan of the entire thing to see what has recovered in the last 5 years, right? But in any event, in my very humble opinion, Project Good Recovery has just been was a fantastic project, and it gave me an opportunity to learn, to grow, to meet lots of new people, and to be a big baller philanthropist by helping these nonprofits recover millions of dollars in funds that they could use to advance their missions in the community. So that was my experience as a big baller philanthropist. All right. So if you found this particular vid interesting or inspiring, hit that thumbs up button for me. I'd appreciate it. Comment. Let me know how you show your philanthropic side. I'd love to know. And of course, subscribe. Subscribe to Invest Strong. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much, friends, and good blessings.